Hell yes. Welcome back to the Lil RES podcast, also known as the Rubble Excavation Services podcast. Today is September 27th, and it is still room temperature outside. Honestly, it's probably going to be room temperature for a while, if I had to guess, as we enter into the fall. Um, Here's the gnocchi of the day, wherever it is on the screen. It's just her in her tower again. I actually was expecting to look up and see her in her cat tower, but she wasn't there. But she was there earlier today. And here is the hat of the day. It is the famous internet cat Pusheen. Pretty standard hat. I'm guessing you can still buy that at the Pusheen store. Um, yeah.
Awesome. Well, how are you today, Harrison?
I'm doing how am I doing? I'm doing pretty good. I'm like at peace. But I'm also a little empty. Because I just finished a video that I had been working on. I don't want to say nonstop, but more than usual. Uh, and now that that's done, and especially now that I don't have a deadline, it's like cool, no more pressure or anything, but also like, what am I gonna do next? What am I gonna do next? I don't know. I mean, I could, I have ideas obviously, but it's like when you're in between videos, you're like, ooh, the possibilities. Very exciting, but very open-ended and unclear. Although I could just work on the second part of the StarCraft series, which is
True.
probably what I will end up doing. But I was like wondering if there was some little video I could sneak in that'd take like a week or 2 weeks or something. Um, but yeah. Oh, and then one last thing, I like tweaked my neck or something in the shower. Um, but like it was weird because I felt fine, and then I like moved around a little bit, and I was like, wait, when I tweak my neck? It's like stiff now, but it's not too bad. And I immediately did those stretches you sent me a while back,
Oh,
because
hell yeah.
that helped the last time. So I'm hoping it doesn't get worse. I'm assuming that if I just like sleep fine, it'll be okay. So yeah,
Yeah, honestly, if you haven't walked yet too, like movement is like everything. Like
yeah,
standing still and stagnation, it like aggravates it more, unfortunately. It's
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
counterintuitive, but movement
No,
is actually better.
that's huge. Yeah, moving around when I have a stiff neck, like moving as much as possible helps a lot. Um,
Also, to follow up on the deadline talk, was this your first ever creative deadline?
yes, it was. Um, so it was a good little test experiment for me because I think that was the main reason I took the sponsor. It was less for the money because, well, okay, it is because of the money. Why else would I put an advertisement in my video? Um, but well, okay, the video's out. We all know who the sponsor is now. It's Raid Shadow Legends. Woo!
Woo!
uh, we're on pod. They're not gonna listen to this, so I can talk about them however I want, and there's no contractual reasons I wouldn't be able to, anyways. But we all understand what we're working with when we get Raid, right? This is not a premium sponsor. It's a legitimate sponsor. It's not a premium sponsor. Um, I would rather not take raid ads, but I will take future ones as long as the terms are good. But really, I just needed to see what it'd feel like to take on a deadline. And the lessons have been learned, which is don't take on a deadline that you know you're gonna need to crunch for. But yeah, how are you doing, Rich?
I am doing well. It is rainy all the time here now. We had a couple days of sun. I think I caught literally like the last 2 days of summer out in the west, um, and it's entering the darkness arc. So I've started
Mm.
taking my vitamin D drops, and I'm getting ready to say goodbye to my tan skin. Other than that, I am doing well. I got my gaming computer set up, which I'm super excited about.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been going to a couple live sports events, which have been super fun as well.
Let's go. And there's something you wanted to talk about.
Oh yes, we've been playing some melee. I'm getting back into it after a year and a half away. Um, how in depth do we want to go into
Okay,
melee?
I thought you were gonna bring up the other thing.
Oh yes, of course, yes. So coming from the East Coast, where cities are very compact and very accessible, and now being on the West Coast, it is a marked difference. There's a couple of big things that stand out to me. On the West, uh, there's only one or two areas in the city that I'm in that I feel you don't actually need a car to get around in. And in those two areas, one is a college area, so not a spot I'd want to live as an adult
Mm-hmm,
necessarily.
mm-hmm.
And the second one is on a super steep hill. So even like I guess it's fine and it's where it's like viewed as like the energy center of the city,
It is
but it's
really
still not
interesting.
super
Sorry,
walkable.
it's really interesting knowing. Can Are you cool with just disclosing where you're at? We don't have to
Oh
if you don't want to.
yeah. No, that's fine. Yeah,
It's
in Seattle, in Seattle.
it's Seattle. Yeah, the way you're describing. So Richard is referring to the University District and Capitol Hill, which is really hard to piece together the way you're kind of beating around the bush, but I figured it out.
That's fair. That's fair.
No, but yeah,
Yes.
I mean, I
So
don't want to. If you weren't comfortable,
no, it's fine. I don't care. And then the other city I was in before this, Washington D.C., the other Washington, it
right?
is a marked difference. There is an underground metro subway system that connects everywhere, including suburbs on the outskirts of the city,
Mm-hmm.
making the whole city feel even more connected. Meanwhile, you go to Seattle, you literally have to cross water to get to like the nearest cities like Mercer Island and Bellevue and Kirkland and stuff like that. And when I'm in DC, you just it feels different. Like there are bodegas, like these little like micro shopping marts everywhere. You see very few of those in Seattle. Like if you
Mm-hmm.
want to go to the grocery store, you go in the car, you drive like 5 to 15 minutes, however far away it is, and then you drive back. It's like you have these gaps in your day where you're just wasting. It's just like total like brain drain, like time suck, where you're
Mm-hmm.
stuck in traffic or you're just driving.
Yeah,
Meanwhile, out in DC, I'm walking between places, so my life just feels much more continuous. Like I sold my car before I moved to the East Coast, and I have no regrets about it.
that's good. Yeah. DC seems very walkable from when I've been in DC. Very like get aroundable without a car. Honestly, having a car seems kind of annoying in DC from the way the
Uh,
roads look to me.
yeah,
Um,
it's horrible, and $300 a month in parking if you want a dedicated parking spot.
yeah, man, in Seattle, parking. Okay, West Coast cities, the car situation is always just better. For better and for worse, right? Like the
Yep.
freeways are better. Um, like street parking and stuff is usually better. Uh, but the caveat is that it's so good that you need it. You don't need it,
Yeah.
but it's a lot nicer to have a car than to not have a car.
Yeah, they're working with so much more space. Like
Yeah, yeah.
DC as a city was designed by this guy L'Enfant. I think he designed a couple cities in France as well.
Mm,
And so the outline of DC with all of its like directional streets and lettered streets was made like in the 1800s or maybe late 1700s,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
early 1800s at the latest. And so it's like they were not thinking of cars. Like at most they were thinking of like horse-drawn carriages or stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it really shows. It's so easy to get around and all that. And it's very compact, which
Yeah.
is also good and bad too.
Yeah. Yeah, you were mentioning earlier, I think it was off air, that like on the West Coast, you will have pockets of walkable areas, but they're kind of separate from each other. You either have to take like long bus rides or drive between them, or maybe if you're lucky, there's a train route. But in West Coast cities,
Yeah.
trains are just not the same.
No.
um, but it is interesting. Yeah, the further you move east, the more those pockets get closer and closer to each other to the point that they like just are overlapping. Um, Chicago is kind of like that, but I would not say Chicago is particularly walkable. Like maybe downtown proper is, but even still, it's a pretty freaking big city. So if you're walking everywhere, it's more of a walk than most places. Um, but yeah, every time I've been in East Coast cities, it's always very interesting to me how much neighborhoods like transition in like style and vibe extremely quickly. Like you literally cross, I feel like, voting districts and you can see things change like in like the line that you're walking through. Does that make sense? Like
Oh yeah,
when
absolutely.
the bubbles are far, I feel like there's a lot of sameness in between them. But when the bubbles are close, they just like rapidly sh- shift between each other. The neighborhoods become very distinct. Oh.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. We got on a little tangent there. But thanks for sharing how you're doing. Um, dude, when you brought up melee, I felt like it looks like I was like peer pressure coaxing you into playing melee or something. I mean, it's fine. It's fine. You're choosing to
No.
play melee on your own accord. I've for context, Richard has played melee uh forever, basically, right? Not like a lot, but it's been in your uh consciousness.
Yeah,
But
definitely. Since like 6 years old, probably. Maybe 5.
6 years old?
Is that right? No, that would have been 64, wouldn't it?
Wait, what are you talking about?
Oof. When I
6?
first start, like when I was like 6 years old, I
Oh,
have memories of playing Party Hat Pikachu.
when you were 6 years old of age. I thought you were like saying like, oh yeah, Melee's like probably played Melee for the first time 6 years ago. And I was like, that's definitely not correct.
No, 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 no. Yeah, when I was like
Yeah,
six
yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
seven, I definitely remember playing. It was either Melee or 64.
Yeah, we're in the correct age band where like most people we knew, or at least some people we knew, we are in the age band where we knew at least somebody who had a GameCube, and everybody who had a GameCube had Melee. So if
Had
you were
to.
at
It was the
somebody's
best
house,
game.
yeah, you would play Melee or like Mario Party or whatever other GameCube games. Um, something about Melee. Oh, but you have literally never touched the advanced techniques, not even the like quote unquote basic advanced techniques ever. You've
Never.
always
Yeah.
played very, very vanilla. Um, but you expressed interest in learning the finer details of the game, and so I'm excited for you to learn the finer details of the game.
We're trying our best. We're learning new grips. Got the claw grip going on. Working on
Yes,
L cancels. All sorts of stuff.
yes,
It's
yes.
really hard undoing like 2 decades
Yeah.
of button mash spamming. But we're working towards it, and I'm kind of hoping that the year gap, honestly, like puts some good distance between it, so I can look at the game in a very fresh manner, like as a new game.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think, I'm actually really curious to see how things pan out for you because I don't remember really exactly what my beginner arc looked like. Um and I'm like I don't think you should make people play melee. I think they want it for themselves. I think that's just the important way to do it. And so because of that, the people who I know who play melee already were into it or got into it on their own, but I've never had like a more supervised look at the learning experience for the game. So I'm curious how it goes for you. I guess for me, I do remember I was really deliberate and intentional, and I would like practice for like half an hour every day because I was like, oh, I really want to get better at this. Um, but I was very self-motivated because I'm not going to go through my entire Melee history, but I was already big on the game anyways, so I had a big reason to want to be able to play it proficiently.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you think this is a good time to transition to your DK video? Speaking of
Yeah,
Melee.
let's do DK video and we'll bounce around too.
Okay.
Actually, before that, let's quickly recap how the last video went.
Oh, sure. Good
Um,
call.
okay, I talked about it a little bit last week. I made a video. It was a year in review reflection. I released it on Monday, uh, which as of today is 2 days ago. I think I haven't been I haven't been watching the numbers too closely. They don't look crazy. I mean they look pretty meh to okay. But that's fine. That's fine. I was kind of not expecting this video to do very well. And I got to enjoy the nice pre satisfaction of already feeling like I had gotten what I wanted out of it before I ever actually released it. So I was like, okay, I got to reflect on my year. Very glad I did that. I got to practice new video making techniques with like my cinematography and stuff. Very happy with how that went. Um, and I think the video is, about as good as it was going to be able to get. So I can't really hope for any more. Um, so I felt pretty content. But it would be really nice if that video got more views because I will get paid more if it gets more views. um,
Yeah, I'm kind of just like tentatively waiting to see if the algo knows where to throw it to and
yeah,
like what that looks like.
that's the curious part, right? Because I think outside of my very core immediate audience, the people who will just unconditionally watch my videos, which I would guesstimate is a couple thousand people.
Which is so
Besides,
crazy, which is kind of crazy to
yeah,
think
it
about that.
is. It is. I shouldn't take that for granted, even though it's like, oh, like it's just a few thousand views, right? But it's like, that's pretty interesting that I've noticed there's like a pretty clear floor where I could probably post almost anything that, as long as it's not a complete waste of people's time, they will just watch it pretty unconditionally. Um, but what was I saying? The core audience. Oh, but yeah, the kind of the broader audience that's not the core audience, that's a little bit more conditional, more like, okay, whatever I make needs to be more into their topics of interest or whatever. This video was obviously not going to hit for most of those people, right? If you show this video to people who are interested because I make videos about Melee sometimes, there's nothing about the video that if you're not intrinsically interested in me as a person is going to be interesting to you, right? It's just like why would you watch it? And same with like I don't know, whoever the yo-yo audience is, they're probably not going to be intrinsically interested. And so yeah, it was kind of understood before publishing like if this video takes off, we don't know, maybe it will, maybe it won't. But if it does, it's probably going to take some time for it to find its foothold and like where it belongs, which uh what I've been saying is I think the place it goes is like the lifestyle slash vlogging side of YouTube. Very different
Mm.
from what I normally do. Um, but I think like the style of the thumbnail, the style of the content, it needs to be shown to people who are interested in hearing people talk about themselves. Which I don't think my outside of like which I don't think my wider current audience does. Whatever whoever that is, whoever YouTube thinks my wider current audience is, I don't think they're interested in just like a person talking about themselves. So we'll see. We'll see. I've gotten a lot of very positive uh comments and messages about the video though. Uh I think the messaging resonates more or less how I wanted it to.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Where
I
it's
think.
yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, just like yeah, if you're doing some kind of hard learning outside of your comfort zone, whether you want to or not, I think the ideas are pretty relevant to whatever you're doing.
Mm.
And that tracks because the video, a lot of the things I'm talking about are also for me. I'm not just saying things to people. I'm talking about my experience, but I'm also trying to share the takeaways, what it means. That's for the viewers, but it's also for myself, right? That's the point of doing the self reflection in the first place. But yeah, what were you gonna say, Rich?
Oh, I guess the other thing that really, and I think we might have talked about this before, maybe not, but what I really liked about this video and what it symbolized to me was like your ability to kind of compromise. And what I mean by that
Mm-hmm.
is like originally when you took this on, like there was a chance that maybe it was going to be StarCraft Part 2, but
Right.
like scope wise there was just no way that would have worked out slash it would have taken everything from you. So I really liked your choice in pivoting to doing some self-reflection, and even if it wasn't even if it was just something else, just
Mm-hmm.
like using this as like another, using the sponsorship for another video versus like it just showed you like we're understanding your limits. And to
Mm-hmm.
me that feels like growing as a creator. That feels very important to me.
Right, right, right. Like I think the experience, regardless of what the outcome was going to be it was like a good is a good rep for doing something like this. Yeah, managing a deadline and whatnot. But yeah, is there anything else I wanted to say about the most recent video? I learned a lot. I liked making it. I'm glad that people are enjoying it. I hope it gets more views. No, I think that's everything. I think that's everything. I'm ready to move on for it. I will say the one thing I will say is you hit diminishing returns on like the reflective value of the video after you hit like I don't know the 60-70% mark of the like progress on it. And after a while it does start to get into like the sludgier form where you're like, okay, I know that at one point I thought this felt pretty um helpful, like to to think through and to hear myself say to myself. Uh but now that I've heard it the 20th time, it's like, all right, I got it. Time to do the next thing cuz I've extracted the personal value I can get out of this. Um so not that I was like, oh, I can't wait to get over with this, but it's like, all right, I have gotten what I can out of it now. So good to move on to the next thing. So, so now we will talk about the Donkey Kong video, which is that originally the idea for the Donkey Kong video, for those who don't remember or haven't heard me talk about it in previous episodes, I wanted to make a video where I was going to play Donkey Kong every single day for 50 days straight. Um, and I would play at a minimum 20 games a day for a total of 1,000 games by the end of the 50 days. And on the last day, the 50th day, I would be attending the Big House, which is one of the Melee Super Majors that happens every year, one of the biggest tournaments of the year. Last week, and a little bit before that, I just stopped playing my daily DK games because it was it was taking like 2 hours a day to play all of my games. Um, and I was keeping it up. I was even after I took on the raid deadline, I was still playing my Donkey Kong games for a while. But after a certain point, I was like, okay, this is not reasonable, and I cannot play 2 hours of Donkey Kong every day and hit my deadline. Um,
Absolute sicko too, because while you're playing the 2 hours of DK, you're probably got that deadline in the back of your mind where you're just like, okay, I need to get through this 2 hours so I can edit more. Like, no, thank you.
yeah, yeah. And so now that the video is done, I can go back to playing Donkey Kong. But obviously, if I want to make up the games I missed, that's like a lot of Donkey Kong. I'm going to be playing like 4 hours a day for a week instead of 2 hours a day. Um, and I don't really think I want to do that. Uh, and also, I wanted to play Donkey Kong at Big House, but I also kind of want to try and do my best at Big House, and so I think I'd rather play my main character Marth, um, and just keep playing Donkey Kong on the side. So the DK video, I haven't decided what it's going to turn into. I still want to make it, but it might turn into me playing more passively, like lowering the daily slash weekly slash monthly game requirements, but and instead doing it over like a year. So instead of 1,000 games in basically 2 months, it would be like I don't know, 4,000 games or 3,000 games over 1 year or something like that. And then that would give me a lot of time to figure out the other details of the video that I was kind of putting off because only had time to play the games. And I think this video, I always wanted the Donkey Kong video to be kind of more like a side thing that I could go to if I wanted to work on something a little sillier, a little bit more fun. And so I think if it has a 1 year deadline, it's like, all right, I can work on this at a very relaxed pace and still make progress on it. So that's, I think, what it will turn into. We'll
Hmm.
see. But I'm still enjoying the Kong. I have no desire to stop playing Donkey Kong. He's a pretty cool mid-tier, low-tier character in Melee. And I'm really glad that I started to pick him up because he's fun. He's fun. I like him. He's a monkey man.
He's the monkey. He's the
he's
monkey. That's
the
all you need to
monkey
say.
guy. How do you not like the monkey guy? It's, it's too good.
Can I
Yeah.
ask about one of these conversation topics?
Yeah.
I see Peloton dad arc question mark, and I'm
Yeah.
I'm confused.
Okay. So, I have not been going to the gym. I probably should have started going to the gym this week on Monday or Tuesday or today. I actually was planning to go today, but I don't have the time to because I have some well we're doing the podcast today, but also I have some other things today that I not work, but they're things I want to do and I don't have time for the gym. You don't need to hear my excuses, it doesn't matter. I will start going to the gym soon. When I was going to the gym before I took on the deadline, uh so like a couple weeks ago, I had been running, which listeners of the podcast know because I kept talking about it. I'd been running and I was really enjoying running. I'd been running for like a month and a half, 2 months at that point. And before that, I had been doing weightlifting, which is how I had been exercising basically since college. Um, After I finished my deadline, I was like, okay, we're taking Monday off for sure because we're chilling. And maybe we'll also take Tuesday off because I worked 2 weekends in a row. So that's like 4 days I normally would have taken off. 2 days, that's fine. That's fine. Um, and during those days off, uh, while like playing video games and stuff, I have been working my way through the 7.5 hour Peloton supercut of Northern Lion, just
Hmm.
talking about his Peloton. And I'm like 6 hours in now or something, and it is making me really interested in indoor cycling. He's sold me. Northern Lion has sold me on the idea of biking on a stationary bike. Honestly, I want a Peloton, but that's like it's like $2,000 plus $50 a month. It's just unjustifiable. But if I go to the Y, they obviously have like exercise bikes. I don't know if they're nice or not. I've never used them, but they're probably solid. So the next time I go to the gym, I'm gonna try cycling and seeing how I like that compared to running. Um,
Hmm.
and if I do like it, maybe we'll enter the Peloton arc. Oh, and why Peloton Dad? It's because Northern Lion keeps calling himself a Peloton Dad in the supercut. He's like,
Uh
oh yeah, Kate got me a Peloton and now I'm a Peloton Dad. Um, which is literally true, I suppose. Because he is a dad now. Um, but yeah, and even before I listened to the Peloton Super Arc, we all knew the Peloton. Anybody who's tuned into the Northern Lion, uh, I don't know what the grid, the Northern Lion zeitgeist knows the Peloton has been happening. And when he posted that picture of himself at Disneyland like, was it like a month ago or something? Or was it Disneyland? He was like somewhere with his kids in like a dad outfit and wearing shorts, and then his legs just he looked fucking ripped.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, dude, the Peloton's doing crazy work. Yeah, we're gonna say.
Oh no, biking is also just like a lot easier in the sense that like if you're feeling like down or like low key, you can easily just like put your like iPhone or sorry, you can put your phone. Sorry to any of the Android or Windows phone users out there. But you can just put your phone on like a stand and you can just like watch TV or something like that while you cycle. It's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
it's even more mindless.
That's the one thing that I don't like about stationary cardio actually is
Mm.
um is the fact that you stay in place. And so the forms of entertainment that work best are like TV or something. I don't know, maybe I'm sure this is one of those things that like if I just leaned into it, I would quickly learn to love it. But the reason I like don't like running on treadmills very much, but I really enjoy running on a track is just because your environment is constantly shifting. Even if you're just on the
It's
same track,
shifting, yeah.
like you things are constantly changing, and especially at the Y, there's the track is one of those tracks that's like, second floor, and it's like looking down onto a gym, right? You know what I'm talking about? Those like,
Oh yeah. So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you get a view of all the people working out below you, and it's like a
Yeah, yeah.
dynamic environment.
Yeah. And so it's like you get to see the gym, and it's usually when I go it's like kids playing basketball, but also lots of pickleball. And I love watching the pickleball because you get to see like old people talking shit and stuff. It's so funny. Um there was this
Heck
one
yeah.
dude he was like probably like, I don't know, 50s or something, wrecking house and talking mad shit. It was so funny. But I was like, this dude's awesome. I love watching this. Yeah. There was Oh man, there I was running the other day, and I missed an awesome opportunity. So I usually I don't want to stare hard, but I like kind of just, off to the side of my eye. I'm just like watching how the games are going and stuff. And I was looking at one of the pickleball courts, and somebody had a, I don't know, they had like spiked the pickleball or whatever the equivalent is. Maybe it's just spiking.
Hmm.
Um, and it was like close to the line, and both of the like teams were like, "Oh, like was it in? Was it out?" And they were like talking about it. And by the time I ran past them, I was like, "Oh, I could have been like a third party judge with a bird's eye view of the court. I could have told them what it was, and they would have just believed me, whether I knew or not." And I was like, "Dang, I missed my opportunity to be a serendipitous pickleball judge."
Yeah, I like the good chaotic energy there.
Yeah, yeah. Were you gonna say? I feel like I might have cut you off there. Um,
I think we're good.
yeah,
I think we're all good.
yeah.
I do see for their next topic something about a joke 10,000 goal this year.
Oh, yeah. I wrote here. We'll talk. We'll start with the topic above it.
Oh sure.
I realized as I was like near the end of finishing up the video, maybe this was even after I published it. I was like, oh, the Lil Res channel. All I did was I made a Lil Res video and then posted on the main channel. That's what I did. I wasn't thinking of it that way at the time, but I realized afterwards that talking on in front of a camera and stuff, it's not totally unfamiliar to me, I suppose. But like the format, um I got I got I got a little bit of training, a little bit of practice from Lil Res. Um which I thought was interesting. And then after I wrote that, I wrote actually I don't know how these two things are connected. But I wrote, "Oh, so for this year, in parentheses, as a joke, The goal will be I make $10,000 in 1 month instead of $1,000 in 1 month. Um, and then our friend Nick, he says, "Don't let it be a joke. Don't let the ten
Hmm.
thousand dollar goal be a joke." And okay, maybe it's not a joke. $10,000 is a scary number. I don't know. So I don't know if I want to feel too much pressure, but I got to make more money this year than I did last year because last year was a red year, and this year is ideally a let's say a net zero year,
Sure.
ideally. Uh, but I can afford a little bit more red. But we don't want too much red. And yeah, that's it. That's all that is. I just thought it'd be funny if I just every year it's like I have to 10x.
Hmm.
Very, very. This is not. Uh, I'm only saying this because people on the internet don't know everything about me. This is not a charge. It's not a charge statement, but a 10x how much money you make by the end of the year goal is very Israeli startup.
True.
I guess it's every startup, but I feel like
It's
the
every
Israeli
startup,
startups are
yeah.
particularly interested in exponential growth.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Um yeah, I don't want to I don't know how to talk about Judaism on the well, let's not get into it because I know Israel's the well, okay. I'm moving on. But trust me, I'm not problematic, you guys.
it's in Israel. As someone that's been there before, they have a very specific like startup hustle
Yes,
culture
there's a
that is.
culture. There's a startup culture in Israel that's it's not a Jewish thing, it's a country thing. I mean, again, okay.
But most people in the country are Jewish, so
Yes, yes. I
myself
will
included.
yeah. I don't need to dance around this as much as I have been. I think it's weirdly difficult to talk about Jews on the internet if you're not Jewish. Which I think makes sense because there's a lot of bad faith actors and stuff out there and a lot
Yeah,
of
it's like
weird intertwined issues. But yeah, sorry, what was that?
it's also like the hard J and the soft J. Like some people say Jew, and some
Yeah,
people
yeah,
say like Jew. Like
yeah. There's a little interesting different there.
the Always Sunny episode does an amazing job on that the hard J and the soft J, and it's very
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. I guess I'll also say I'm a little bit of a Jewaboo. I'm a little bit of a Jewaboo. Um, because a lot of really important and really cool and interesting people in the entertainment industry in particular are Jewish, That's just how it breaks down. And it's hard for me to not uh appreciate how Jewish culture is very keyed into like comedy and stuff. Um yeah,
Seinfeld
I'm enough of a
and
Jewaboo that I took a course on like Jewish humor in college.
oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. A couple of my friends took that class too. We
Yeah.
went to the same college.
Yeah, yeah. That class was fire though. It was actually
I
really,
wish I
really
had taken
interesting.
that one. That's funny.
Yeah. Um okay, let's see. I'm looking at the agenda items. We'll probably do a couple more and then we'll probably wrap.
Sounds
Um
good.
let's see. Oh, okay. What video do I want to make right now? What do I want to work on right now? Because like we said at the beginning, I can and to some degree should continue working on part 2 of the StarCraft video. Um I want to finish that video. I want to release that video. I like that video. Um and it will get me to part 3, which will be the easiest video to edit. So that'll be nice. But I think that video is going to take about a month. I kept thinking like, oh, it'll take a month, and then I'll work on it, and then after I work on it, I'm like, oh, but it'll still take a month to finish. Who knows? But I think right now
Hmm.
where it's at, the current state, it's about a month out. Um, con- conservatively, conservatively a month out. Like I think that's a generous amount of time to give myself. Like it's a month out with me being not grindy at all and working very comfortably is how I'm thinking about it. Uh, but again, like I said earlier, when you're in between videos, you have a little bit of freedom because at least for me, um, sure, maybe I can work on multiple things at once a little bit, but ideally, my focus is pretty targeted, and I don't want to break that too much. Unless I'm like really getting stuck, I want to keep working on whatever I'm currently working on while everything is still fresh in my head. Uh, and so if I start working on the StarCraft video right now, which is the decision I should make in the next few days, I will probably be locked into that until it's done. Just for
Hmm.
I think that'll be the most comfortable way to work through it. And so, is there something I can fit before that that I would want to make? And okay, I really liked using the camera for the last video a lot more than I was expecting, and it
Hmm.
made me start to question a little bit like the trajectory of my channel. In that like I think right now my bread and butter is documentary voiceover stuff. I think that's the thing where like my current skill set is strong enough that if I do something where I put a good faith effort into the research process, the writing process, and then I edit it in whatever polished way I can, those videos will probably always do well. Um,
Hmm.
but I don't get to be in those videos. I'm merely the narrator. And in reality, a lot of my emotions and thoughts and feelings are encoded into those videos, but it is much, much more subtle. But I also don't want to be inserting myself into videos just for the sake of it. Uh, maybe. Because the point is not for me to be a main character. Like, maybe a year from now when I do the next year in review, it'll be similar to this one or it'll be something. But in those videos, I get to be the main character. But in general, I'm not trying to be the main character of my videos. And so, oh, idea I just had. Maybe the Donkey Kong video also serves as the year in review video. That's a
Hmm.
weird. And then somehow I have to reflect on how my year went while also using Donkey Kong as the catalyst for progression. I don't know, but that was an idea that just popped in my head. um, but yeah, like I want. I just feel a little conflicted. Process wise, I enjoyed making something that where I was the cameraman, I was the director, I was the cinematographer, etc. I liked that process wise quite a bit. Um, but that's not totally compatible with the stuff that I also like making that I also know is probably going to do well. So you kind of have to juggle that a little bit. Um, I don't know. I don't really remember where I was going with that, to be honest. But it's just making me think about what I should do next. I think there's two most likely options. The first one is I make a very short video that I can do in about a week. Um, and then do the StarCraft video. And the second one is I just jump straight into the StarCraft video. I think those are the two things that might happen. But I've been looking through my ideas list. Um, and there are some videos I definitely want to make. But some of them, it's like, I don't think this is a 1 week video. I think this is probably going to be like a 1 month, maybe even 2 month
Right.
video. So it's hard to say. But yeah. Do you have any thoughts,
Well.
Rich? Well, I don't know
Uh.
what your thoughts could be, but yeah, I'm just curious.
No, I mean, what is it? A lot. Some of this kind of makes me think a little bit about, like, for example, Joel Haver's 24-hour film challenge. And obviously, I'm not saying work your like, don't
It's
burn
actually
yourself
shorter than
off
that.
doing a
It's
week.
it's just during the Oscars film challenge.
Oh, that's right. That's
Yeah,
right. That's
yeah, yeah.
crazy. Okay, yes. But like I think it is interesting to see just for your own reference, if you were to work like a reasonable split, think like 4 to 8 hours a day over the course of a week on a complex video idea, how far do you take it? Or can you do the first part of like a video, for example, in that period and just release it as a multi-part thing?
Another multi-parter. I just
Yeah,
yeah.
true, true,
No,
true.
no, I get what you're saying though. It's I think I will try and avoid multi-part stuff, even though I do kind of like the idea of being incremental. Um,
Yeah.
the only reason I was comfortable doing the StarCraft video in parts is because I had or I already knew the entire picture. I had written
Right.
out the whole thing, so I knew exactly how it divides up. Um, and I
But
was
your
convinced
little
enough that it worked. Was that
your little ode to learning or whatever, your ode to human design interaction,
human
humans.
computer interaction?
Yes, yeah. You did you do that in about a week?
Yeah, that was done in less than a week. Um,
Yeah, I'm sure there's some topic out there that you could take an aspect of and just do it out in a week if you want to create another video before you jump feet
yeah.
first into StarCraft.
Yeah, I guess there's another option, which is I've been kind of wanting to make a Lil RES video because the only videos that we've been putting up on Lil
Mm,
RES have been these podcasts since they're fast.
right.
Um, but I mean, the old Lil Res videos were also made extremely quickly. The point of Lil Res, this is not the point of Lil Res, but I realized like a week ago, oh, there's a very clear and easy way to distinguish between what's a Lil Res video and what's not. At least how I've been operating so far, which is that every Lil Res video is wholly unscripted. At most, I have a very rough outline, but every Lil Res video is wholly unscripted versus every Resprit video is scripted to some degree. I have already
Mm,
thought through what the entire story is going to be for every Res video, but Lil Res videos are always like I don't know where they're gonna go, or how they're gonna turn out. But maybe I'll do a Lil Res video that's a little more thought through, um, but uh, still, still loose. We'll see. We'll tune things. That I don't think that needs to be the case every time. I think that's just how I, without even realizing it, had been kind of categorizing the like where I'm gonna
right.
put a video. And the other thing is that Lil Res videos do not have performance expectations, and so I think this is gonna sound like cope, but genuinely, I do not try very hard at all with like the branding and packaging of low res videos. The goal is usually to make the thumbnail as fast as possible. It's I almost treat it like speed running.
Yeah.
Um where like it's like, okay, can I make a thumbnail in like 5 minutes, 10 minutes? If I do, like I feel like that's a huge success for a low res video and I just put it up. And that's pretty much been true for every thumbnail
No, I
made on this
remember when one
channel.
of your low res videos blew up, and maybe we could talk about this on a later episode. I remember
Yeah.
when the Tom Scott video blew up and the follow up to it. Like, it was so unexpected. It was like, wait, like you were almost like peeved. You were like, no,
Yeah, it was
this is little channel. It's not supposed to do big.
yeah, it's not supposed to do big, it's supposed to do little. I don't it's so weird because I don't think about that video at all, but it is
Right.
actually one of my most viewed videos. But it was so insignificant when I made it. I got overwhelmed when it got a bunch of views, but it was also such a short-lived overwhelm. Like once I got over I completely left my mind.
Right,
um,
right.
but yeah, maybe we'll talk about Lil Res in a bit. But that's probably the most compromised option is to do like, okay, just make a little res video. That's not a podcast because then you can put in a little bit of effort, but it's not super committal and you can get a little bit because the thing is the idea list grows and grows and grows and it never stops growing because I can't make things fast as I have ideas. And it's like, but I just kind of I want to flush some of these. I want to get some of these out of the way. Um, because the limit is infinity, and I want to be infinity minus a couple.
It's true.
Yeah. But anyways, I think we're probably reaching wrap time, huh?
Yeah, I think we're all good.
All right. Well, nice chatting with you as always, Richard. Thanks for listening. Uh, viewers, uh, I need to tighten up the outro. What do I say? I say, I say what I said at the end of the, that, okay, one last thought. the podcast was very instrumental in informing a lot of my thoughts for the most recent video.
Mm.
And the ending thing about like if you're fighting to persist, you're already doing great. That idea came about in one of like in like over the course of the podcast. Maybe there's a specific one, but because there was the one podcast where I was like, "Oh yeah, I genuinely think like if you're trying, you're already doing a good job." Like that is how I feel, and I that turned into that part of the closing monologue. Um, but yes, viewers, it is true. Uh, if you are fighting to persist, if you're doing your best, doesn't matter how things are actually going, you're already doing a good job because that's what you need to be doing. Uh, so yes, hope you're doing well, and goodbye now. Goodbye now.
Goodbye now.
Bye.